Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? It's your boy, The Doc, and we are back with another injury update show, and we have a ton of injuries to talk about, so let's jump into it. In an effort to keep things short and sweet with the injuries, I have grouped players that I think have similar chances of playing or not playing. We're going to start with two quarterbacks that I think have a chance to play, but are currently more 50-50 than anything. And that is Kyler Murray with his foot sprain and Brock Purdy with his toe injury. Both of these guys missing some time prior to this with these injuries. They are both practicing in a limited capacity. If I had to guess, I would say Brock Purdy is closer to being able to play, but again, both guys practicing, a good sign that there's at least a chance, probably a better than 50% chance that they are able to slot back into their lineups as the starter this week. Now, moving on to some wide receivers that I don't think will play at all this week. First up, Calvin Ridley. He's got a hamstring strain. Now, the team said that he could not run with this hamstring injury. The fact that he couldn't even really test it tells us that this is at least a mild strain, so I would not be surprised if he does not play this week. Normal recovery timeline for a hamstring injury is about 2 to 4 weeks, so I would expect him to miss some time. This does open up some opportunities for the young wide receivers, but I think Chigakonkwo has really moved into more of that streamable option at the tight end position. If you need help at tight end, maybe you have a guy I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video. Streaming a guy like Chigakonkwo while Brock Bowers is missing is not a bad option. Now, Emeka Egbuka also dealing with a hamstring strain. He is not expected to play this week. They've already ruled him out. The team has a week 9 bye, so I would be surprised if we see him prior to week 10, which is actually the exact same situation that we have with Garrett Wilson. Now, he hyperextended his knee, so it's not technically a hamstring injury, but again, not expected to play this week. The team has said that it's going to be a couple weeks for Garrett Wilson. They also have a week 9 bye. So again, probably looking at week 10 for Emeka Egbuka and Garrett Wilson. Puka Nacua is a little bit more on the questionable side of things, but I don't expect him to be able to play this week. He has an ankle injury. They're calling it an ankle sprain. I've watched the video a bunch of times. It didn't really look like he sprained his ankle. If he did, it's a low ankle sprain, but he did not practice early in the week, so I would be surprised if we see him this week. I would guess that they give him a week off, given that they have a bye next week. Those were some guys that I didn't think were going to play. Let's talk about some wide receivers that I think have a chance to play this week. And I've actually ranked these guys in order of most likely to play to least likely to play. And first up, we've got Quentin Johnston with the hamstring strain. He actually missed last week, but was a game time decision. I think he was legitimately close to being able to play. They decided to keep him out. Pretty good chance that he comes back this week. We also have CeeDee Lamb coming back from a high ankle sprain. He has been limited in practice thus far, but he has said that he plans on playing. Again, pretty good chance that we see CeeDee Lamb come back. Of course, we've got Mike Evans coming back to practice this week as well from his hamstring strain. He's just limited. We'll see what happens. They might be pushing him maybe to come back a little earlier than expected with all the other wide receiver injuries that they have going on right now. Again, I'd say it's probably closer to 60-40 that he plays, but a good sign that he is practicing again. Then we have Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, he's dealing with a concussion, and typically I would say that most guys will miss the week after they are ruled out with a concussion, but he has been practicing in a limited capacity. And when we see guys come back in just 1 week, which doesn't really happen a whole lot anymore, but 2-3 years ago would have happened quite often, we would see this type of schedule as terms of their practice schedule. So the fact that he's getting some limited work in means he might be working through the concussion protocol a little bit faster. There's at least a chance that he plays, even though we don't see it that often anymore with those concussions. And then finally, we got Terry McLaurin. Now, he's dealing with a quad strain that's kept him out for the last few weeks. He apparently did practice on Wednesday, but it was being called a jog through practice, not really a full sprinting practice. Did not practice on Thursday. So either they are trying to protect him or they don't think he's quite ready yet to go full speed. I would say of all of these guys, he's probably the least likely to play this week. Before we get into the last few names on the video, what are you guys waiting for? Use the code HEADLINERS when you head over to Underdog Fantasy and sign up. Get free first deposit bonus cash when you use that code HEADLINERS. Start making some bets with the Fantasy Headliners. Jake is absolutely crushing his bets this year. We're all making money at the Fantasy Headliners, courtesy of our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Again, when you sign up, use the code HEADLINERS and let them know that we sent you. Finally, for the tight end position, let's go good news, bad news with the tight ends, and we'll start with George Kittle. Now, George Kittle has been on IR with a hamstring strain. He is back practicing this week. His window has opened for him to potentially return, and if everything goes well, it's possible that we see him as soon as this week. Now, the problem is that if you were relying on Brock Bowers coming back this week, you're probably going to be waiting for a couple more weeks. The team does have a bye in week 8. He did not practice on Wednesday, and I would be very surprised if we see him practice at all this week. With him getting the opportunity of 2 weeks rest, you're going to have to continue finding streaming options for your tight end position, which is a huge bummer. We have had a lot of major injuries to big time players, and this is just one of those that if you drafted Brock Bowers, things are probably not going great in your fantasy league, but if they are, let me know down in the comments below. I kind of want a mid-season check-in in the comments. I know that you guys are working hard to get us some fantasy championships here at Headliner Nation, and you know that we appreciate that support, especially when we get into the thick of it when it comes to bye weeks and injuries and all the things that happen mid-season in your fantasy season. So just kind of check in down below. Let me know what problems you're having, and I will do my best to answer as many of those comments as I can. That's all I got for you guys this week. Short and simple injury video. If there's any questions that you have, let me know down in the comments below. I didn't talk about every single injury because I wanted to try to keep it concise this week, but I'm always here to help in the comments. And if you haven't already, hit the join button down below. Become an exclusive member to Headliner Nation. Join our Discord where you can get access to me 24/7 throughout the fantasy season. I give injury updates throughout the day on Sunday, giving instant reactions, things that I think can help you make decisions for those waivers. We know these injury shows come out later in the week, so sometimes it's nice to have that news ahead of time. Obviously, we're giving you as much injury info as we can through Jake and Kyle's videos, but really the best way to stay on top of it is to be in the Discord where you can ask me questions. We can talk back and forth about what we're seeing with these injuries, and it's just a great way to stay on top of everything when it comes to fantasy football and injuries. But that's all I have for you this week, and we will see you next time.